Alright, how y'all doing today?
Good.
Good. That's good. Alright, my name is Levi Snapp, for those of you who don't know. And I'm going to be sharing with you all a little bit more about welding and welding in the world around you, as in how it affects you all, and kind of different areas of society that talks more about welding and where you can find welding, I guess, around you all more. So once again, a recap of last week or 2 weeks ago when I presented. Welding is basically like the fusing together of two metals to make them serve as one piece. And what I mean by fusing them together is like you're right next to each other and you're melting both of them at the same time. And they cool like instantly. They don't just like stay watery for a long time. Once you melt them, they'll cool back and they like form together as one piece. So how it affects you all individually or just everybody in general is how welding goes into different like structures, and there's so many different welding jobs in like the career world because there's so much welding in so many different areas of society, whether it's in like buildings or other structures or even small objects that I'll get to later. It's just like there's welding all around us, and so that's what I'm going to focus on mostly today. The different areas of careers that you can find welding in is they have like, well, because there's lots of different jobs obviously in the career world, but when you break those into different sections, you have traveling contractors where you basically work for a firm or a company, or you have your boss and you'll travel across the country, or I mean even into different countries, whether working on like pipelines or just like bigger jobs across the country where different people will contract you out to there. Government organizations like the one in this picture, which I'll get to later, those are mostly in like one central area where you'll be working for a company that you'll be doing welding for them. I guess primarily building things for the government and things like that. It's always good to get into government facilities because it's just, you got a lot of benefits and things like that. Local metal fabrication jobs, excuse me. These are more so like in your community around that you can take things if like say something breaks in your house and you need it welded, or like your trailer breaks and you don't have a welder at home to take it to fix, you can take it to there and they'll fix it for you. Self-employed, that's just individuals who are good in the trade of welding, or they have certifications or things like that. They'll have their own truck, their own rig, their own equipment, and they will just contract themselves out. They can contract themselves to a different employee, say if they need more help on a job, or if it's just individuals that they don't have enough work for an entire group of people. They only have enough work for one person to come out and do a lot of jobs for them. That's who self-employed individuals will go out and do. Also, welding can be an art form. There is lots of different ways of using welding as art, which I'll show you some examples later in the presentation. But yeah, welding is also an art form in different areas. Like I said about this government organization, this is a shipyard in Newport News. I actually got to work there for a couple months last fall after I graduated, and the shipyard is like 6 miles long, and they build here they build aircraft carriers and submarines for the United States Navy, so that's really neat, and we got to take part in all of that. And actually right down here in this corner is where the welding shop is located, where they send all of us for like training. And this crane right here is the largest crane and like it can hold the most weight in the entire Western Hemisphere. It actually has 3 different like crane scans coming off of it that can each hold 350 tons each. So like they call it Big Blue because it's a blue crane. I don't know if that's just the name of it, but it can hold like over 1,000 tons. So that's really neat. Fun fact for you. All right, some different structures and products that are welded around our society that affects us individually. Industrial-wise, we have bridges and ships and oil rigs. All those are welded. There's always different foundations and fabrications that go in to building the structures of them, at least before the actual roads and things come in. Commercial-wise, farm equipment, handrails. Anytime you're like walking down somewhere and they have metal handrails everywhere, all those are welded together. They don't just come out of the factory like that. Well, they come out of the factory, everything welded, obviously, but and then even in race cars like NASCAR, there's a ton of welding that goes into those that a lot of people don't even realize, just because of the engine blocks and then frames of all the cars. All those are welded together and put in the factories before they're shipped out to the dealerships. And then more common, just things you can see at Walmart or anywhere, people have one of them all the time. Bicycles are welded together, mostly out of lighter metals like aluminum and things like that, but they are still welded together. Computers and cell phones are also welded together through they're more like robotic welding, where it's a lot of like fusing little tiny pieces together, but it is still considered welding. welding processes, I know there's a lot of words on this slide, but just bear with me. Well, because there's so many different materials and different kinds of objects that need to be welded together that use a lot of different materials when you're doing that. These things in the picture on the right are called electrodes, which are also just referred to as like filler metal, because whenever you're welding two pieces of metal together, you need, for that metal you're taking away, or sometimes in order to get what's called more penetration, like I said down here, like with structural welding, well, you have to have a lot of like adequate penetration, which I have a picture on the next slide actually. Well, here, I'll just show you now. Like when I'm talking about penetration, you have the different pictures here. These two pictures are both full penetration, and these two pictures are like incomplete penetration. And more structural welding, where you're dealing with like thicker material or things that are going to have a lot more stress on them, you need to fix on these, where you'll actually have to grind part of the metal off. That way you can get the entire piece of metal welded either on one side or on both sides. Whereas smaller things like bicycles and handrails and other small objects, you don't really need to do that. As long as the metal's fused together, you're fine. But going back, like I said, with these electrodes, different kinds of welds require different tensile strengths. And tensile strength is basically the amount of like pressure or stress that the metal can take from being either bent or, like I said, acted upon before it breaks or stretched. And with tensile strength, these are measured in like 10,000s of pounds. So on these electrodes, how you determine that is you can see kind of on here, this one's called an E6010, a 6011, 6013, and a 7018 down here. You can't see that one. But you always judge it by the first two numbers. And so like these 60s are all going to have 60,000 pounds of tensile strength, which means that that filler metal can be stressed up to 60,000 pounds. And then down here on the 7018, that can have 70,000 pounds of tensile strength. Like I said, I told you about the different penetrations. And then the welding art, like I was talking about earlier, these are two different kinds of welding art. This guy here, he obviously just had a lot of different panels that are being welded together, making a moose. It's hard to tell where he's at, but different things like that. And then also on the left, that's just made by making a lot of different welding beads on one flat piece of metal. And then the different colors are made by the different heats coming in and the ways it cools and things like that. So a lot of art is made that way too. But anybody have any questions?
For that last like artistic one, with
yeah,
the colors and everything, do you think he intentionally made it some places being like red and blue, or did that just come out that way?
That is made by, it's called TIG welding, which I don't have a lot of experience in. It's made with like using a filler rod and different, like it's a completely different type of welding. But I don't think that there's a specific way to get the different colors in there. Like I said, it's all about how quickly it's cooled. That's what determines, and also the amount of gas coming in will affect the colors of the welds. Anybody else have any questions? Nope. Daniel?
What do you do in Newport News Shipyard?
Oh, Newport News.